So just to start out here real quick, as we head into allergy season, here in West Michigan, in the state of Michigan, what are our biggest allergens? What causes the biggest problem?
So especially at the start of allergy season, tree pollens are a big issue. So early on, for example, the maple tree is one of the earlier pollinating trees. So tree pollen season can actually start as early as mid-February. So even in like the third or fourth week of February, tree pollen season can start. And it may be starting earlier. As you know, the effects of climate change take effect as well. So yeah, I would say tree pollen is something you have to look out for early in the spring, and then as the seasons progress, mold spores start to come out in the spring as well, and then later grass pollen is more May to July, and then the weeds like ragweed tend to come out in the late summer to fall, like August through October.
You mentioned climate change there. What kind of trends have you
Mhm.
noticed overall when it comes to the impacts on growing seasons and thus allergy seasons?
So there have definitely been impacts so far. You know, in our clinics, we're seeing people come in for their allergy symptoms earlier and earlier every year. There was actually a study just out of the University of Michigan pretty recently showing that they're projecting as the temperatures continue to rise and the carbon dioxide levels continue to rise in the atmosphere, that the spring pollens will start even up to 40 days potentially earlier than they have been over the next years, and that's compared to even like the 1990s and early 2000s. So it's a pretty significant change, as well as the study showed that even the amount of pollen that the plants are producing would actually potentially increase as well. So allergy sufferers will definitely see some changes with their pollen season starting earlier, potentially also having more overlap in the pollen. So some of the trees will pollinate for longer periods of time than they used to. So you may have even more tree pollen in the air at one time because of that. So I think people who have allergies are definitely going to see the effects in terms of a longer pollen season and potentially more intense as well.
Speaking of those pollen seasons, what are you seeing so far this spring, and how do you think the season ahead is going to shape up?
So far, we've had, you know, the weather has been quite variable, but we have seen low to moderate levels of some of the tree pollen starting. So, you know, like I mentioned, like the maple tree, poplar, elm, those are some of the earlier pollinating trees. And then, you know, I expect as the season progresses, we'll start to get more mold as well. There's been low levels thus far, but as it starts to warm up, the mold counts will increase. And then tree pollens overall will continue to increase as the weather gets a bit warmer. But, you know, as the weather has been quite variable, as you know, recently. So there hasn't really been a consistent trend yet, but yeah, I expect there to be high levels of tree pollen coming up pretty soon.
As those pollen levels start to go up as we head further into allergy season, what do you recommend for people to, how do they prepare, and what should they be ready to do to treat those allergies?
So the good thing about allergies is a lot of our good medications are actually available over the counter. So one of the best medications to treat allergies is over the counter nasal sprays such as fluticasone, or Flonase is the brand name for it, Nasacort, Rhinocort, any of those types of intranasal steroid sprays are very good at preventing symptoms. They do need to be used regularly in order to provide benefits. So it's something that I would recommend starting at least a week prior to when your usual symptoms would occur, and then continuing daily throughout your allergy season. That typically works very well for people. If that's not enough, I'd recommend adding on, an antihistamine, again, over the counter, which could be Zyrtec, Allegra, Claritin, one of those. And both of these medications are very safe. If people are still having symptoms despite trying some of these safe over-the-counter medications, that's when I really would recommend seeing an allergist to discuss more about whether allergy testing is needed or whether other medications are needed to control symptoms.
Is there anything about allergy season, allergies in general, that we haven't talked about yet that you think would be good for people to know?
I think that, in general, trying to, treat with over-the-counter medications is appropriate at first, but I really would encourage people, like I said, to reach out to an allergist if you're still struggling, because there are other options, including medications and even allergy injections, which can really help people in the long term. So medications help with short term to control your symptoms, but the allergy injections are really, the best long-term treatment in terms of reducing symptoms long term. So I would say if you're continuing to have issues despite taking medications, that would be the best thing to do. And also, knowing that the seasons are just going to get worse, I think doing something proactive like allergy shots to help your symptoms long term is something people should definitely consider if they are really suffering from their symptoms.
I appreciate you taking some time to talk to me today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.